Hey guys, welcome to the second live video series, and this week we're gonna be going to Egypt. So thank you guys for joining us. We're gonna be posting, like we said, weekly videos about this. Now we're gonna start off by introducing ourselves. I'm Jorge, and I'm the social media director.
I'm Jenny from the Foodie Corner.
And I'm Katie. I'm your vacation specialist.
Okay, so we're gonna have a little bit about destination and foodie corner. But before we get started, we're gonna talk about what do we do at Happy Day Getaway. So, Katie, what do we do?
So as you guys know already from our last video, we bought a travel agency. So we specialize in different vacation packages. We can do cruises, we can do land packages, which includes flights, resorts, villas. We also do excursions. So if you want to take a tour of London or go snorkeling in the Caribbean, we got you with that. We will do a whole separate video on exactly what we do and why use a travel agent. So stay tuned for that in a future video.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started with the place that more than likely all of us that end up going to Egypt will start out in, and that's Cairo. So picture here on my left, on my right, is the Great Mosque of Muhammad Ali. Now, you can see from here, you get a lot of Ottoman Empire influence in the architecture. Cairo is a city that has a lot of history, a lot of different archaeological facts, a lot of different religious facts. We won't be able to put all of that into this video today, but just note that Cairo has a lot of different things for you to explore. Now, what is the optimal time to go to Egypt? It is between March and April or October to November, and that's because the temperatures are favorable at that time. Now, if you do want to get to see some sandstorms, it's recommended you go in March and April because that's when you get to see some. And from what I've seen in the pictures and reviews, it is definitely jaw-dropping. Now, when you think of Egypt, what's the first thing that you think about?
The pyramids.
The pyramids, right? And so as you can see here in the picture, that is the number one attraction of Egypt, is the pyramids. Now, the pyramids, essentially, I guess to give a little bit of background about what they are, they're tombs. The pharaohs started building the pyramids 4,500 years ago, so a long time ago, and they made these tombs because they were kind of like preparing themselves to become gods. And the tombs, they put everything in those tombs to be able to prepare them for that afterlife. Now, the first pyramid, which is the Great Pyramid of Giza, that began by the pharaoh Khufu, and so that's the tallest pyramid. It sits at an elevation of 481 feet, so pretty high structure. Now, if you think about it, 481 feet, 4,500 years ago, that's impressive that the civilizations of that time were able to build a structure of such height. Now, if you see on this picture, you can see all the pyramids right there in Giza. There's 6 total. 3 of them being some of the largest / oldest ones, and then 3 of them being some of the newer ones. They built the pyramids as the tombs, and then there's also temples around there, which were meant for the gods. And as you see from the picture too, the proximity from the pyramids to Cairo, that's the city of Cairo right there that you see on the picture. And that is a great thing because if you fly to Egypt, you're more than likely going to fly to Cairo. You're footsteps away from getting to the pyramids. You even get certain locations where you can stay, where you get pyramid view. And so, I mean, how cool is that? You get to see the pyramids from your bedroom where you're staying. So, great destination, definitely a bucket list destination to go to. And we highly recommend you check it out.
Now, moving on, our next destination in Egypt is the Karnak Hypostyle Hall. And a hypostyle is essentially an architectural structure, as shown here, that's marked by really high columns. This is one of the most visited religious complexes and one of the most interesting architectural marvels in ancient Thebes, which is now modern-day Luxor. This was built by Pharaoh Seti in 1250 BC. And it's interesting to note that this structure still has some of the original paint from when it was built back in the day. So not only is the actual structure still standing from 1250 BC, but even some of the paint is original. Now, I think that's very impressive. Moving on to the Nubian houses. The Nubians were an ancient civilization who lived with the pharaohs on the banks of the Nile River. These people lived in very colorful houses that were made out of mud bricks. The Nubians do speak their own language, and they do have their own unique culture that is distinct to them. And you can visit these houses, and you can also visit different Nubian markets by visiting their spice markets and just seeing what their culture has. Very impressive that they've kept up their own unique culture within history today.
Okay. Well, when you think about Egypt, you always think about the pyramids and several different temples and sphinx and all these different monuments, but you never really think about diving. And that's something that we found out in our research is Egypt has one of the most popular dive spots globally, and that is the Tistelgorn Wreck. And Tistelgorn Wreck is a World War II British transportation ship that got sunken in World War II by a German air attack. And so that was back in 1941. It was discovered about 11 years later, and now it's become a world-known dive spot if you like wrecks. The reason why it's very known is because you get to see a lot of different fish species, and the water is very clear. So therefore, it is perfect for pictures, perfect for GoPro videos or any other sort of professional underwater video footage that you would like to take. Now, the location does sit about 5 hours and 30 minutes away from Cairo, and it's in the north part of the Red Sea. So, to be able to get there, you have to take a charter ship from the city of Sharm el Sheikh. Now, my pronunciation might not be there, but that's where you would have to take the ship from, and it is a great, beautiful experience. So, just something outside of what you normally would think about when you think about Egypt.
All right, and moving on to Abu Simbel. Abu Simbel are two temples that were built by Ramses II. These structures were created to celebrate Ramses' victory over the Hittites in the Battle of Kadesh. It is interesting that some historians do argue that Ramses might not have actually won this battle, but it was actually considered a draw. But regardless of the outcome of the actual battle, it is interesting to see these huge structures. The size of it is massive, and it's very impressive to see this standing today.
Now, moving on, we have the CY Oasis. Now, this has become a popular tourist destination as of late. It was discovered by some explorers back in the 1800s, and it is very important because it is the most isolated settlement in Egypt. It sits about 350 miles from Cairo. It's actually closer to the Libyan border than it is to Cairo, and it sits on a depression. So it's about 62 feet below sea level, and it is very popular right now because it houses the Temple of Amun. So if you've seen any of those, the Mummy movies and stuff like that, that's the famous Temple of Amun, right? Now, as of recent, people have been using it as a very big touristy experience. But not only that, historians date this history of this city or this little oasis in the middle of a desert back to the Egyptian Empire. And that's kind of mind-boggling to think about because between Cairo or between where the Egyptian Empire was and this oasis is 350 miles of desert. So somehow back in the ancient empire, they were able to figure out a way to communicate the two sides. So that's pretty impressive. If you're a historian buff, this would be great place to go. Now, we do have some friends that actually traveled to Egypt about, it was November of last year. And so these are some of their pictures. You can see them on the right side, on top of one of the pyramids. And then on the left side, experiencing the camels. Highly recommended to do the camels. I mean, you're in Egypt, riding camels. You got the pyramids in the background. Great profile picture. But not only that, they also recommended that we were, not only from them, but we were highly encouraged to get guides. That's from every other travel blog or travel recommendation website. every single one of those places recommends if you're going to go to Egypt, you need to make sure that you get a guide. Now, Katie's going to cover also some of the other recommendations that our friends were able to give us for you to be able to take into account when you're traveling to Egypt.
Yeah, so two of our friends did speak to us prior to making this video, Mallory and Gabby. Mallory really emphasized the importance of having a guide so you can learn all of the history and make sure you're not missing anything when you do visit Egypt. And Gabby gave some travel tips on what to think about when you do go to Egypt. So, of course, it is important to see the pyramids of Giza. That's pretty obvious if you're going to Egypt. Gotta see those. But also the Sphinx statues, the tombs of the pharaohs, and the Egyptian Museum. You want to block out about a whole day to see the Egyptian Museum just because there is so much to see in it. And if you block out less than a day, you might not see everything that there is. And keeping in mind that the dress code is a little different, it is recommended to cover your shoulders and your legs up to your knees to abide by local customs. Of course, there are a lot of tourists that wear tank tops and shorter shorts, and that's completely fine, but it is customary to dress a little more conservatively. However, you do want to dress very comfortably. It is in the desert and it is very hot. And you do want to have a good pair of walking shoes because you're going to be doing a lot of walking. So make sure you're comfortable for that. Also, check out their fresh fruit smoothies because these are really refreshing on a really hot day. Highly recommended when you're feeling a little parched. And also keep in mind that tipping is expected, so you might want to carry a little cash with you because when you do go on tours and just see a lot of different attractions, don't want to be caught off guard for that.
Right.
So thank you, Gabby and Mallory, for helping us out with that, providing pictures and giving us some advice there.
Yeah, thank you. Now, what is this trip? I mean, who is the perfect person for this trip?
I think it's pretty clear that, well, first of all, I think we would be great candidates.
Oh, I'd love to go, yes.
Well, I would love to see it. But anyone who is a history buff would love Egypt. Pretty obvious with that, with all the history. It's very unique history specific to Egypt that you can't get anywhere else, of course. But also anyone who's interested in photography, you can get some really cool pictures with that. It's impressive seeing all these pictures with all the pyramids and everything. And anyone who's really into architecture. As you can see, it is very interesting to see how these structures were built so long ago, and it's so impressive that they stand today, and they didn't have nearly as many tools as we have now. So that's just an amazing wonder of how they were actually able to create all these beautiful buildings.
Right, yeah. Now, we mentioned at the beginning of the series, of the video series, that we're going to be doing a deal that we talk about. So this week being Egypt, we have a deal to discuss with you of an experience in Egypt. So what is that, Katie?
So we found a really cool tour for you guys. This tour is a 13-day tour in Egypt. The price starts at $2,199 a person, and this covers a lot. It's pretty impressive how much you do get with this tour. You do get to see various cities. You get to see Cairo, Luxor, Aswan, Edu. You also get to go on a miniature river cruise for a day and travel down the Nile River. Keep in mind that if you were to go on a full-on river cruise down the Nile, the starting price for that alone is about $5,000.
Or more.
Yeah, river cruises can be very pricey. So the fact that you get to go on a little express river cruise in this, that really adds a lot of value to this trip.
Yeah.
You get to see a lot of different places. This covers your transportation between different cities. This covers a lot of different meals, not all of them, but a lot of them. And when you're done with this tour, you're going to leave Egypt and you're going to feel like you haven't missed a thing. This is a pretty extensive tour and covers all of the highlights of Egypt.
Right, and something that even like Gabby and Mallory had mentioned was you can't do this in a short amount of time. You really need to spend the time to be able to capture all of Egypt. And this tour is a great way to, you spend 13 days, you get to capture all the different high points of Egypt, and you even get an option to extend your trip. I think it's an add-on of $450, and you get to go to Abu Simbel, which is one of the destinations that we talked about today. But without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and go to the
Foodie
corner.
Hello, welcome back to the Foodie Corner. So, today we will begin with something sweet. A kunafa. This consists of baking semolina flour noodles until crunchy, then soak them in syrup, and finally arrange around a central filling of soft cheese. And for the savory, you should try kashari, the one in the top. Full medams is especially popular for breakfast, and you can find it everywhere, even on streets. And last one, hawashi. That one, and yeah, it sounds like Hawaii, but it's not from Hawaii. It's Egyptian. But anyway, you can try this dish, especially when you're on a trip or getting prepped for visiting one of the fabulous places in Egypt. So pretty recommended. Then why not trying some fish?
I love seafood.
I love fish. Yeah, I love seafood. Sayadenya, the one on the top. You can try the best ones of these fish on seaside cities like Alexandria, Suez, and Port Said. You also want to try mulukia, or if you are a falafel lover like me, you should try taameya below here. And it's basically it's pretty much like falafel, but instead of using chickpeas, it's cooked with fava beans. Now, where can we find all this food? Well, pretty easy. Here we leave 3 recommendations, our very best recommendations, and the best one is the first one is the Blue Restaurant Grill, inside the Kempinski Nile Hotel Garden City, Cairo. The second one will be khal Restaurant. Here you will find authentic Egyptian dishes with exciting live cooking. And last one, but not least, you should go to Nile. Really, you should go. And the cool part here is that you will enjoy of Middle Eastern cuisine while enjoying of live entertainment, usually belly dancers and fine singers. And well, these 3 days sure that you can find it in Cairo. But don't worry if you are not in Cairo and you want to try our food out of Cairo. We will leave all the information down below in the description box, right?
Yes. Yes. Well, that ends this segment of Egypt. There is a lot of things to do in Egypt. We cannot cram everything into this video, but we really are thankful for everybody that joined us today. We want you to have the best experience you can in Egypt. We'll leave some information in the description below, just like Jenny said. And we thank you for joining us. Now, remember, every Sunday we're going to be live streaming. And now, next week's destination is Japan. So get ready for that. We're excited. We're actually going to be doing some sushi on Friday?
Yeah.
So we're going to show you guys a little bit of kind of like how we prepare the sushi, and we'll show that in the video. But thank you guys for joining us. Now, as always, we can't do this without your support. So please follow, share, and like our different pages. Thank you guys for being here, and please subscribe. The more we grow, the faster we'll be able to get a name on YouTube. But thank you guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, this is us saying goodbye and happy travels.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.